Really?
Hey guys, happy
Oh,
Tuesday. Glad to have you with us.
gotta love technology. Woo.
Oh yeah.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spark Rentals Podcast, YouTube Live,
Facebook
and
Live.
Facebook Live. Um, we are very excited this week because we have Paul. How do you, Wakim? Is that right?
Wakim or Wakem. Wakem is good.
Wakem. Okay.
Wakem.
I'm so terrible with that stuff.
No worries.
Um, And Paul's a real estate investor, developer. You've kind of done a little bit of everything. And right
Sure
before
have.
we came on, you were telling us an interesting story about how you're living now. So it's kind of very cool. So with that, can you just start us off a little bit with how did you get involved in real estate?
Yeah. First things first. Thank you guys so much for having me. I have watched a couple of your shows, and I like this live format that you do, and I think it's very raw and keep people honest.
That it
So
is.
I appreciate that. I think that in the world of social media, things can be too curated. So I think that your utilization of live is awesome, and I couldn't be more grateful to be here talking to you guys. Um,
Thank you.
We're
so
grateful to
yeah,
have you
my name
with
is
us.
Paul Wakem. Yeah. My name is Paul Wakem. I got my start in real estate in my hometown, home city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My entrance into the world of real estate and real estate investing is a little bit odd. I started with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, what has become one of the largest real estate photography companies on the East
Wow.
Coast. And I had always had like a passion under the surface for real estate because of family and friends and people that I had interactions with throughout my middle school, high school years, college years. But whenever I started this real estate photography company, I had instant direct access with high end real estate agents, really high quality flippers, rehabbers, landlords, guys that
Mm,
owned 3 properties to 8,000 properties. And it kind of just ignited the little Tinder bundle of interest in real estate investing for me. So I would drive around and listen to podcasts all day in between photography appointments, all about real estate investing, and then decided to take the leap and get into investing myself right around 2017 with some pretty interesting deals that led me to my first rental and then eventually to the technology company that I've started in the real estate space.
wow, it's amazing what can get you involved. So you start out taking pictures of homes and then you're like, hmm.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, it was honestly like the exposure to experts, like being being on social media and seeing the success that people have, being on YouTube and seeing the success that people have. It's definitely great. But listening to podcasts, hearing somebody talk about their financial freedom through rental properties or through their flipping business or through wholesaling and whatever it was, and then going and talking to those people in person and taking
Right.
photos of their house is like, all right, it's right in front of me. I got to do this.
It's funny. I have a friend who invests in Pittsburgh and
Nice.
he's an insurance agent, and that's how he meets so many different people and has
Yeah.
struck some deals. So it's funny. It's funny.
I
It's,
think
well,
I think
did
most
you?
investors
Oh,
get in that way.
oh,
Kind of through the side door. I mean, I got into it through working for a lender, a mortgage lender,
oh, that's
Yeah.
um,
right.
Yeah.
who specialized in working with investors. So
Yeah, it's hard to
yeah, it's
avoid. You see the success and you're like, all right, I got to do this. I can definitely do this. I had a little bit of that like fear of missing out where I would look at somebody and be like, all right, I have started a somewhat successful photography business and it just required a whole lot of hard work and these guys are working really hard. If I can work really hard, then I can also do this. So it was a good place to find myself in a couple years ago.
That's awesome. Did
Thank
I
you?
you.
love it.
How did you get involved in photography? Was it real estate photography that you wanted to do, or?
So I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh with a degree in economics. I thought I was going to be a doctor, met my wife in college, and she said, "You don't want to be a doctor. I can see it in your face." So graduated with a degree in economics. I got into real estate photography in a crazy roundabout way. I started a marketing company. The guy who was our business partner in the marketing company, his wife was and still is one of the largest real estate agents in Pennsylvania. He said, Paul, can you go take drone photos? Because I had just got a drone as a graduation present from my wife. He said, can you go take drone photos of this listing? And I said, sure, why not? Went, took the photos, drove down the street, found another real estate agent's sign and called her. And speaking of being in access or having access to the largest real estate agents and investors, that first appointment, I called that agent off of her sign. She was the largest real estate investor friendly agent in Pennsylvania at the time. And I proceeded to take 430 house photos for her that year for her
That's
rental
crazy.
properties. So yeah, it was very much serendipitous.
Oh, but it's also that's scrappy marketing, right? Going out there and just picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Sure was. It sure was. It was the scrappiest.
Yeah, but look where it led.
Yep. Very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. So then, yeah, my wife and I got my wife into real estate investing and bought a couple properties, got into do some wholesaling. We kind of saw wholesaling as like, if there are leads, we're going to find them. I'd prefer to find them myself, which then led us to buying properties and then creating a technology company.
Very
Well,
cool.
again, I love the winding road that your career in real estate took, and I think that's very typical. Actually, I think most of us end up taking this very winding road to
True.
our real estate investing success. Now, I read before we hopped on today that you bought your first property from an investor in Qatar, uh, and you handled the whole thing over WhatsApp. So
Yeah.
tell us that story.
Yeah. So I keep mentioning this technology company, and I'm sure we'll get there, but if we don't, no big deal. I wanted to predict who was going to sell their house next. And I was a real estate agent. I was getting into real estate investing, and I said, I can build an algorithm. I know kind of what code means. So I taught myself how to code. I built an algorithm, a very
Wow.
rudimentary algorithm to predict who was going to sell their house next. And it predicted that this house that was on my dog walking path was going to sell next. So I was out walking my dog one day and said, hey, I recognize that address. Is that the same house on the spreadsheet that my very rudimentary algorithm cranked out? And it just so happened that it was. So I walked my dog back home and put a sticky note on the door of that house and said, I would like to buy your house. If you're interested in selling, please call me at this phone number. Left my phone number. It
Wow.
just so happened that that guy that owned that house was in town for 3 days in Pittsburgh. He was a professor, a remote professor at Carnegie Mellon. It just so happened he was in town for 3 days and saw that sticky note on the door and called me from a phone number that had like 18 digits. And I was like, I'm not answering this. It's definitely spam. Left a voicemail for me, called him back. And that was the one and only phone call I had with him. Everything else throughout the entire purchase that eventually ended 8 months later in us purchasing the property was done over WhatsApp, including
That's
going
crazy.
to the Qatar notary or the US embassy in Qatar to get the sales agreements finalized and signed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it
Once
was
again, with
crazy.
the scrappy marketing effort, I love it.
Trying. We definitely were trying. It was do everything we possibly could. At the time the photography business was doing well, but it wasn't fully supporting us. So we were like in between these two worlds of what can we make work in real estate outside of photography. Thankfully my wife is killing it with the photography business now, and yeah, it was an interesting start to our real estate career, that's for sure.
Now, I also read that you bought a property for $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know about that.
Yep. So in the state of Pennsylvania in 2016, I think, maybe 2017, the probate laws were amended to include this clause that was called the conservatorship.
Mhm.
And what it allowed you to do was essentially take a property that was in very, very, very bad condition, with the consent of the family of the person who had passed away, take that property and clean the title. Now, I was one of the first people in Pennsylvania to do this whole conservatorship
Wow.
process. And it ended in I had to pay $18,000 in attorney's fees to weed my way through this process. But if you look at the court records, if you look at the tax assessment, my name is on this house with a $1 purchase
That's
that I
crazy.
actually, yeah, thank you. I actually turned around and ended up selling it to my landlord who I was renting from at the time for $86,000 without doing really any work at all. So it was a great, a great payday as well.
Wow, that's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. Yeah, it was a very interesting start to my real estate career, those two properties.
I love it. So you
Thank you.
mentioned that you created this rudimentary algorithm based on like 5 or 6 different data points that indicated who was interested in selling their home before they actually hired a realtor and listed it on the MLS for sale. Now, I don't. We obviously don't want you to give away any trade secrets or anything, but given that it sounds like your algorithm today is much more complicated. Can you share with us what those 5 or 6 data points were that indicated in advance who was interested in selling their home?
Yeah, of course, of course. And there's no real secret sauce, honestly. Um, there are some companies that are doing prediction right now in the real estate space better than I could ever hope to do. So much so that we've actually put the prediction side of our business back on the shelf and said, we're not going to do this right now. So my technology now is not really related to prediction. There are some companies now, if anybody is interested in the world of predicting who's going to sell, the best company out there is called Audantic. Those guys are up in Seattle, and they are amazing, like absolutely amazing at doing what they do to predict who's going to sell their property. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to predicting who's going to sell, there's obvious things like death, divorce, tax liens, violations against the home, like if there's like trash left outside, really financial distress. Those kind of things are like the big indicators of this person is probably going to sell. Job changes, promotions that you can see on LinkedIn. But I'm sure as you're thinking about, or you're listening to me say this, it's like, okay, but how do you tie all of that data together in one place and then make a prediction on it? And that's the key. The algorithms that predict who's going to sell their house today are off the shelf. They're built by Google, they're built by these giant companies, and they're open source for anybody to use. The difficult part is tying all the data together and structuring the data. Which, if I'm honest with you guys, I was very, very, very lucky in my first algorithm because I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where CMU is. It's one of the top computer science schools, if not the best in the entire world. They did a project with Allegheny County to structure all of the tax assessment, all of those distress factors that say somebody's going to sell. All that data was really nicely
Wow.
structured and packaged for me to build an algorithm on top of. So yeah, it's the things that you would expect: death, divorce, tax liens, credit card debt. The home is in distress from the outside, if there's violations against it, job change, those kinds of things are really the big factors that point to somebody wanting to sell their house. And one last thing, I don't mean to ramble so much, but I learned all of that, not really from the data, but I learned all of that from communications with the sellers that I was photographing their homes. I'd ask, if you don't mind me asking, why are you selling your house? And it really led me down, okay, how do I find the data for somebody who just got a promotion at work? Oh, okay, LinkedIn has that data, that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone listening who is interested in some of these more traditional ways of finding distressed properties like foreclosures, tax liens, divorces, we added a couple links in the comments to tools that can help you with that, like foreclosure.com and PropStream. So check those out if you are interested in finding off-market deals that way, through just distressed sellers.
Yeah,
So
PropStream's a great way. PropStream is one of the best at taking all these different data sources and combining them in one place to really make it accessible to a consumer.
yeah, we love PropStream. Can't speak highly enough about it.
Yeah.
Now, in your real estate investing career, what has changed since those early days? How have you scaled your investing strategy?
Yep. So in 2017, 2018, that time frame, like I said, I really got into the world of wholesaling and wholetailing properties. Like we would purchase them, my wife and I would purchase them and then sell them off like that $1 property. And then as I got into the world of predicting who was going to sell, I did that with my business partner, who's now the CTO of our technology company. And it was a lot of wholesaling and wholetailing, and then keeping some as rental property. So that property that I mentioned that I bought from the guy in Qatar over WhatsApp, that was our first rental property. It was a
Oh,
duplex.
wow.
Yeah, it was a duplex. We put about, I think, $83,000 into it. And then whenever we started the technology company and got super into Town Square, my wife and I decided, okay, we're going to stop investing in properties. We're going to put all of our effort into our companies, like the photography company and like the technology company. So full disclosure, I don't own any properties right now. I don't even own. I'm not even renting from anybody right now. We can talk about that as if we need to. But yeah, it evolved from wanting to find the deals and, okay, how can I make a little bit of cash flow by wholetailing those properties, to holding a couple of them, to then starting the technology company and saying, we need some cash. Let's sell these off. And the properties that we sold off, we actually sold to our tenants. That one that I mentioned, that duplex.
Very, very cool.
So tell us about Town Square, this platform that you've built for real estate investors for buying and selling off-market deals. Tell us not only how it came about, but exactly who it's for, how it works, what the appeal is.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So Town Square is just that. We think of it like a virtual town square. I have never personally had really any success in business unless I was working with somebody who was more experienced than I was and was willing to take me under their wing completely or in small parts. So our focus with Town Square is not only to help real estate investors sell their off-market properties, but also connect with other real estate investors on a deal by deal basis. So there are companies, like you guys know, Bigger Pockets, where you could go on and you could connect with somebody, but the surface level connection where you're talking about information is good, but it's not great. If I
Right.
had a deal and I came to you guys and said, hey, I have a great deal in Florida. Can we work together on this? Do you want to joint venture with me on this property that I want to sell? Our connection would be much deeper because it's like we're all financially interested in this property. So that's really the essence of Town Square. It's a marketplace for real estate investors to post their properties and sell them to buyers that are on the platform, but also to connect with other real estate investors that are on the platform through joint ventures and through partnerships to leverage each other's strengths so that you can grow your business faster. Like I said, I've never had success without working with somebody else who's been more experienced than me. So that's what we're trying to build into our platform. It's really that connection on a deal by deal basis.
And how does it differ from Roofstock, which seems to have a similar business model, where it's a marketplace platform for off-market real estate investment properties?
Yeah. So the biggest way that we differentiate ourselves from the likes of Roofstock, or there's another company from Texas that does a really good job. Their name is Trelly. The way that we differentiate ourselves from those guys is that connection piece. If I have a property that I want to sell in, let's say, Jacksonville, Florida, I can go on Town Square and I can send my property to the marketplace. I can also send my property to my network if I have a buyer's list, or if I have contacts in my phone that I think would want to buy my property. I can upload those contacts and I can send my property to those contacts from Town Square. We've built
Oh,
that
wow.
email technology. Thank you. Yeah. Built it into the platform. Then the third thing you can do is I can look and see who are the other investors in Jacksonville, Florida on Town Square that I can share my property with, and who have also uploaded their contacts to Town Square, so that I can leverage a possible relationship with those people and their contacts. So yeah, we're different in that way that it's all, you can market your property, you can post it on the platform, you can post it on the marketplace, but then you can take it many steps further to form those connections with other users and direct buyers.
I love it. So not just a marketplace, but also almost like a real estate investing social network
Yeah, that's
slash
what I was
real
thinking.
estate
It's like
investing
social media
association.
for, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, to help
yeah.
you
We're
find
not
JV partners. Yeah.
That's right. We're not trying to take the social network for real estate investors away from bigger pockets by any means, but I would say the social network based on deals. I can't
Mhm.
connect with somebody unless I have a deal, and that's very important to me. Is that people have to bring value to the table in the form of a property instead of just saying, "Hey, can we talk about real estate investing?"
That is really, really, I like that. That's very
Thank you,
cool.
thank
I
you. It
love it.
ties
Now,
everybody together more. You know what I mean?
absolutely. So, since we're talking about assets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars here, and there is, plenty of fraud in the real estate industry, have you guys seen fraud on the platform? People trying to, fraudulently form partnerships, anything like that, and how do you guys prevent that from becoming a problem on there?
Yeah, I'm so excited that you asked. I have to be honest. It's part of the big initiative that we're making right now. There's a couple competitive platforms in the space that we're hearing from the users of those other platforms like, hey, I'm only getting properties sent to me that, like, first of all, the person doesn't have the right to market this property, so I can't even talk to them about it. And I'm getting properties sent to me that are of such low quality, the numbers don't work out, that I feel like I'm just being bombarded. So, to prevent fraud, to prevent illegal marketing actions, and to make sure that a high quality of properties on our platform, we're coming out with a couple new features. I actually have a bunch of Slack messages right now from my team who are testing these new features. The main feature that we're adding is what we call post completeness. So, in the next couple of weeks, when you look at properties on Town Square, you'll be able to see how complete that property is. And what that means is, has the seller added all of the information that makes it possible for me to know it's a good deal and that they actually own the property or have the right to market the property, so that the second you look at a property, okay, this is worth my time. So yeah, it's a very, very important thing to my team and I to make sure that there is legitimacy and professionalism on the platform.
Awesome. It is a big problem right now, especially in real estate and a lot of your real estate. Oh, we lost Brian.
No worries.
We've had it. We've dealt with it on our software.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, and because right before we got on, you were talking about and telling us about how you told us you don't own a property right now, but how do you live?
Yep. Yep. Of course. Thanks for asking, Denny. It's definitely unique. So right before the pandemic hit is whenever my co-founder and I launched that algorithm to predict who was going to sell. And a month before everything shut down, we achieved 95% accuracy in our predictions. And we were so excited. But then we were watching the news and we saw what China was doing and how the pandemic was coming towards America. And, everybody locked down. And even though my
Yeah.
co founder and I were 5 miles away from each other, we didn't see each other for most of 2020. I think we may have saw each other for, I don't know, 3 or 4 times throughout all of 2020. So, because of that, our team and our companies have been completely remote really since the inception in late 2019, early 2020. So, uh, in late or early 2021, my wife and I and my business partner and his wife decided, all right, we don't need to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We don't really even see each other in person. Let's go move to the West Coast. So originally, we moved from Pittsburgh to Boulder, Colorado, spent a lot of time in Boulder, Colorado, and then we both took it upon ourselves again to say, we don't have to be in Boulder, Colorado. Let's pick up and move around. So I'm currently living a month to 3 months at a time in Airbnbs, testing out different cities and states to decide on where I do want to finally settle down with my wife.
I I love that.
Thank you.
Brian does something similar, but I mean he's a little bit more longer term, but he's living right now in Brazil. I think they're relocating shortly to
Nice.
Peru. He was in Abu Dhabi. So I mean I have 13 grandchildren and 5 kids. So you know,
You're locked in.
I'm like yeah, I kind of whoops. I almost popped you out, Brian. Sorry.
I did drop out. I had a connectivity problem, so sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, you're locked in, Denny. Denny, where are you at? I apologize that I'm forgetting.
Oh, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in a suburb of Philadelphia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
I thought one of you guys were from Philly, and I was like, maybe when I say Pittsburgh, it will pique their interest a little bit.
well, yeah, I thought that's where you are now, but it's pretty much cooler where you are right
Yeah,
now.
we're currently in South Lake Tahoe. It's a pretty beautiful place. I had never been to Tahoe before this month and a half, and man, it's beautiful. It's nice to stand up from my desk, writing a text startup, and go walk around in the woods, or I can go next to this
Oh my
beautiful lake.
goodness.
Very fortunate, to say the very least.
I know that Brian and I both have been virtual and working that way for what, like, I don't even know how long. It's been a long time. So
Yeah.
when
14 years for
everybody
me.
is it, yeah. So I just think it's funny when the pandemic hit and so many people were like, wow, either they were like really thinking it was cool or they were missing people. And I was like, oh, I've been doing this forever. But there is
Been
some
there,
really
done that.
cool, right. But the cool thing is the travel, like you can really, like my husband and I got a camper and, we spent some time in that and I was still able to work. So
Yeah.
it was very cool.
How do you,
Mm.
if you don't mind me asking, how do you manage your rental properties and everything with Spark Rental? Like, what does your day look like or your week look like to work on all of this stuff remotely? Both of you guys.
Well, I have one left, one house that I rent out. So it's very easy, long-term tenants. So I really don't have to do a whole lot there. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and I am a realtor, which I think you said you were too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right, I remember reading that. And so I do a little bit of managing. I actually just kind of turned down a couple people that came my way and asked me to manage because I'm trying to scale back. I'm a little older than you guys, so
And you have grandchildren. You got to spend some
I
time with them.
do. Yes, that's my goal.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, at Spark Rental, we actually offer online property management software for mom and pop landlords, which
Yep.
helps. I've sold off most of my rental portfolio as well. Denny and I today are mostly investing passively in real estate syndications.
Mhm.
So apartment complexes. We're trying to get into some more alternative syndications as well, like self storage facilities, mobile home parks, that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I live overseas. I don't have the energy or the time to buy properties directly in the U.S. at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're trying to invest more passively right now. Um,
Makes sense.
and yeah, so we actually have a co-investing club so our course students. We all get together once a month and invest in real estate syndication deals, and we all pool our money so we can each invest with $5,000, $10,000 a piece instead of 50 or 100 grand that you typically
Yeah.
need as a minimum investment for real estate syndications. And it's fun. We all get together and vet the deals as a club, and yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of or thought about investing in a syndication for short-term rentals? I was just listening to a podcast 2 days ago about syndications for short-term rentals. This guy, I'm forgetting his name right now, but it was so interesting to me. The world of short-term rentals obviously is very interesting to me, and he has the goal of syndicating enough money to build, not just buy and then rent out, but build 650 short-term rentals. And
Wow.
I'm thinking, man, I hope that one day I can invest in a syndication like that, because it just seems like, obviously it seems like the future, because there's so much momentum driving towards short-term rentals.
Yeah, so there's a fund that we like. We haven't actually invested in it yet. We did sit down and have a long chat with the sponsor. The fund is by a company called TechVestor. Um, Now that fund is only available to accredited investors, but there's a guy who created a feeder fund for that, and you can invest in the feeder fund as a non-accredited investor. Um, I can't remember the name of that company, but the guy who created that feeder fund, his name is Tim Ensman.
Okay.
So non-accredited investors can access this fund by TechVestor that owns hundreds of Airbnb short-term rental properties around the country.
Nice.
And I think
Yeah.
TechVestor I think they're looking to expand into overseas vacation rentals as well.
Yeah, it just seems like the future. Like I said, whenever we've been through a couple pivots at Town Square, and one of our pivots was from the retail space, helping retail sellers connect with retail agents. And whenever we pivoted out of that, we went, just like so many people, right to the hedge funds, right to the institutional buyers. And a couple of the people that we brushed up against, interestingly enough, were giant hedge funds with a couple hundred million, a couple $1 billion to spend solely on short term rentals. And I think there's some really interesting marketing dynamics or market dynamics coming whenever interest rates start to go down, but the media is still pushing the general everyday public to not buy. And there's going to be an opportunity for people to come in and buy lots and lots of long-term rentals, but also lots and lots of short-term rentals. At least from my perspective, in talking to these hedge funds, and the acquisitions managers there, they have this tranche of money set aside. A couple of them have this tranche of money set aside to buy thousands of long-term single-family rentals, the whole SFR world. But they're starting to get into this world of, oh, wow, I can get $4,000 a month on this short-term rental instead of $1,800 a month on this long-term rental. It's going to be interesting to see what happens
Yeah.
whenever institutional money comes into this space in a big way.
It will be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was an interesting observation that you just said about when interest rates come down, but the media is still, screaming fear and terror into everyone's ears. I think that we will see that happen in 2023 if a recession does end up coming about. If rising interest rates do push the economy into a recession, which most people tend to, or it's the sounding the alarm bells seems pretty universal. Then what will the Fed do? They'll lower interest rates again. But to your point, the media is still going to be, howling about how awful things are, and that will be a great moment to invest in real estate.
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's funny that we're having this conversation. It wasn't, I didn't mean to bring this up, but maybe it's just in my brain. This morning, I was looking at the St. Louis Fed data just for interest rates, and I decided to drag the timeline out a little bit to see, the big thing in my brain with this institutional buying was Blackstone bought Invitation Homes in 2012. And at the time, Invitation Homes was owning and renting and managing 80,000 single family homes. And they bought them in 2012, right as interest rates started to go down and the market started to come back, but everybody kind of still felt like they were in a recession. I think that we won't have to wait 4 years. 2008 to 2012 was 4 years. I think that we'll have to wait 18 months maximum, but I think that it's going to come back, and there's going to be that sweet spot of time for real estate investors, big, small, giant, institutional, all of the like, to have the perfect opportunity to buy maybe even properties on market or for syndications to get some really good deals that will see appreciation over the next 10 years because of the turbulent environment that unfortunately and fortunately the media creates.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And in the meantime, we never want to tell people to try to time the market because it never ends well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we try to just dollar cost average even with our real estate investments.
Nice.
Which you can do when you're only investing $5,000 a piece in different
Yeah.
real estate investments. When you're pooling with an investment club like we do, as opposed to having to put 50 grand, 100 grand into either a down payment for a single property or as an investment in a real estate syndication.
Yeah. That's smart.
So,
that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can't time the market, but you can just keep plowing money into it steadily over time. And I think long term, that's the only way to come out ahead.
Yeah.
In the long run.
Exactly. Yeah, that's honestly what we're seeing. I was just at a conference 2 weeks ago, and I spoke with some hard money lenders there, and they said we're seeing more short-term rental and long-term rental DSCR loans in our pipeline right now than we have seen in the last 2.5 or 3 years. So I think that people are understanding what we're talking about here, and hopefully it's a good time for people to increase their rental portfolio, and the money that they're plowing into the market actually does, provide some fruits for that labor.
Well, Paul, I want to be respectful of your time, but before we wrap up, is there any final advice that you would want to share with real estate investors just getting started, or people looking to scale their real estate investments? Any last words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, sure. So I've always had success, like I said, partnering with and working with people that are drastically more experienced than me. I know it's kind of we're kind of beating a dead horse by saying go work with people that have the experience that you hope to have one day, but it is so true. I've done the best example is some ground up construction that I did where I built 4 high end townhomes with a business partner of mine, and he was an older gentleman that had experience raising money and doing new construction before, and I'm better for the majority of the profit that I gave him so that I could learn. So anybody who's getting started or anybody who wants to scale, just go find somebody on Bigger Pockets or in your community to talk to that you can provide value to, that you can then get some value back from them to just make yourself better, a better business person, and dedicate
Even by
at least
going
6
to
months.
your real estate investing clubs, which are everywhere, and they're just, starting to meet in person again, which is nice. You'd be
Exactly.
surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my parting wisdom.
Well, I love it, and that is something that I hear across the board in every business, is that the shortcut to success, to the extent that there is such a thing, is find a mentor who has done exactly what you want to do, and you know find ways to either partner with them or learn under them, because it's worth every penny or every hour that you put in. Um,
Sure is.
yeah, skipping the pitfalls and learning from someone who's been there and done that.
That's right. That's right. Yep. And
Well,
seeing how they handle mistakes. One of the biggest things I've learned was seeing how the people that are more experienced than me, how they handled mistakes. Like the world wasn't on fire whenever we were 2 months late on the delivery date of these townhomes we built. It's all good. It's fine. Everything is still going to work out.
Right.
Yep.
well,
That's
Paul, thank you so much for joining us today and spending some time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We linked in the comments to townsquare.com, where you can connect with Paul and his platform there for connecting buyers and sellers and partners on real estate
Yep.
investment deals. Paul, thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
was
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Denny. Thank you so much, Brian. It was great to be on the show. And yeah, I hope we can stay in touch.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you guys next week. Stay in touch. Let us know what you want to hear about in future episodes. Support at sparkrental.com. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye bye.